It's so exciting.
Okay.
All right, that's nice. Get them away. Oh, this is really weird. The meeting is being recorded. That's not news. Eliana, how do we get rid of that little?
I just need you to click OK or.
Yeah, it's fine. I got it. Yeah.
Oh, I don't got it. Is it got it? Is that what?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. That's great. Anyway, look at you. It's so nice to see you. It
Thank
really
you.
is.
Thank you.
Yeah, the last time we actually saw each other, I think, was at the University of Maryland, wasn't it?
That's right.
That's
yeah.
it. Well, this is more private and more connected than that kind of a it's nice to meet you thing.
Yes.
So anyway, I would like to introduce all of you to each other. So Ezra and Eliana.
Hello.
Hello, Eliana and Ezra.
And that's a nice picture. And so they are both research assistants with this oral history project that we're in and part of. And here's a gift from heaven for me, is that both Eliana and Ezra love libraries and they believe in archives. So it's quite remarkable that how they can build out of this huge number of voices to make sure that the archives make sense and all of that kind of thing. So anyway, you all see each other and it's a great day. So we're gonna now turn their faces off. And it'll be just you and me, Homa, who are looking at each other. And they're recording. And all of that we do, as well as they know that every single thing that anyone who becomes involved in this oral history effort are private. And it's 100% private. And nobody will ever see it except the three of us.
Okay.
And that's it. Each individual life is an individual life. And so it is as it goes into the
Let me ask you, is it possible for me to get a copy?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Good.
Oh, yeah, you're your own best friend. Yeah, explain that, Ellie and Ezra.
You know what I was thinking about? Everything they have done about our lives is in Persian. And I thought this would be nice for my grandchildren to see it in English. That's my, you know.
Oh, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
So wow. Well, good. So I don't even know how people start. The whole idea of what?
Sorry, just a heads up before we begin. Zoom is going to cut off in about 45 minutes, and I will give about a 5-minute warning before it cuts off. And then once it does, I'll send out another link to get back on.
Good. So, Homa, have we talked about the large part of the study yet, you and I?
You told me that you have 3 families that you're following, and you're interested in seeing their adaptation, their lives, their development throughout history of their lives. Yes.
Yes, right. And the kind of history that oral history allows is a history that deals with the cracks and spaces of everyday life. Can't get that from the traditional and ordinary histories of one thing or another. So what's so wonderful about this, and this is I'm going to shut up forever as we talk, is that the cracks and crannies are the places where we can really learn how people live and why they live and how they conceive of how they live. So that's really what this particular oral history effort is. It's to do just that. So you start. We don't ask questions. I don't ask questions until later on. We'll find questions to ask. But I just, here's, please do tell us your life story as you know it.
I'll tell you my life story as I know it.
Okay.
I was born in on April 24th, 1941, in Tehran, Iran.
Mhm.
And my parents were, my father was, I don't know what he was doing at the time. I think he was working for the Department of Agriculture. And my mother was a housewife.
Mhm.
They were a very unusual couple because my father came from a line of a family that was Baha'i. His father was Baha'i. And my mother came from a family that were quite religious Muslim.
Mm.
And for them to be married was quite an interesting phenomenon in those days of Iran, because my father was an exceptional man, and my grandparents and my great-grandfather was very fond of him for being such a accomplished young man. And in fact, he had a fight. My great-grandfather had a fight with his son, my grandfather, that if you don't give your daughter to him, I'm going to marry one of my daughters to him because I want to keep him in the family. So then my grandfather said, okay, and they were married. But despite the fact that they were married and they had consent of the grandfather, my grandfather was quite a difficult man, let's put it, that never accepted our family as Baha'i. He was quite prejudiced. He was brunt of a lot of his comments, and it just was not a very pleasant relationship. I was born at the time that Iran was occupied by the Russian and the British occupation in Second World War. And Russian soldiers were all over the areas that we lived. In fact, one of my first memories is that I saw a Russian soldier that had only one eye walking by the window, and I was so scared. I went and hid behind like the thing that is behind me. And I was so short that this covered my head. You know, I must have been like 3 feet tall or something. Anyways, so that's the beginning of our lives. After I'm the firstborn, my brother is 18 months younger than me, Homa Mahmoudi. We are very close. I mean, Masood and I are extremely close. I think we have spent our 80 years of life almost together. And I'm very fond of him. We're very much alike. And I really find him, it's a pleasure to have a life companion as a brother. Later on, I went to school. I went to a French Catholic school called Jeanne d'Arc in Tehran, which was, in those days, the Iranian women were supposed to be educated in French ways of manners and literature, and usually the upper class families of Iran were sending their daughters to this school. When I went to school, I noticed that other girls had sisters and I didn't. So I went home and asked my parents, I want a sister. And that's when Hoda came. And Sister Homa Mahmoudi is 7 years younger than I am, and she is um, I get what I wanted and I always wished for. And again, we are very close and very fond of her, and our lives have been just very much together all the time. Hoda came to Jeanne d'Arc school with me one few days, but she didn't like the French Catholic discipline. So she went to an American school afterwards. But I continued in the French school. I was a very good student in mathematics, chemistry, and science. They used to call me Madame Curie of the school. But in other areas, I was kind of lost. I wasn't good in literature and writing, and it was hard for me to deal with that. And the fact that we were studying French and Persian at the same time, and we were studying Catholicism and Islam, and at home we were following Baha'i faith, was also quite interesting for a young woman, that we were saying prayers in 3 different denominations every single day. And each one of them were putting hellfire and damnation in our hearts, that, if we didn't follow their way, it was going to be the end of our lives. But it was a very rich kind of a upbringing in some ways, because it was so multifaceted. And it pushed a lot of buttons in our minds and in our ways. Many of the girls that went to our school were daughters of ministers, and all of the political problems in Iran would be right at our school, and they would close our school and take the girls away, that it was dangerous. And it became quite a place for us to be educated. At the same time, the nuns were very disciplined and very hard to follow and to understand. But the one thing that was a breath of fresh air while I was growing up, in Iran, we didn't have professional women that looked good, that dressed right, that were pretty. Our teachers and the nuns were not quite the symbol of women that were happy and independent. They were just there. And then we had these airline hostesses of Air France that would come to our school, and they would bring mail or sometimes packages for the nuns in school. These women were pretty. Those uniforms of Air France were gorgeous. Their haircuts, their makeup, everything about them was so attractive. And at a young age, I decided that when I grow up, I'm going to be airline hostess, because I also love traveling so much. So they were kind of my first role model as women who seemed happy doing what they were doing, and that they had some semblance of independence and freedom of choice, and which was really a nice thing. As I told you, my family comes from a Baha'i background. The Baha'is in Iran were always persecuted. They were killed. They were, many a times on the walls of our house, they would write things that were derogatory and nasty. Many a times during some religious holidays, we had to leave the city in order to be protected. So basically, it was not an easy life there as a Baha'i, but we were also very active Baha'i. my father was always member of the assembly, which was the local governing agency. My mother became a Baha'i, and she was involved with women organization, with studying English, learning about education of children, all within Baha'i faith. And one of the first memories also that I have was these Baha'i women gathering in our house with small, um, like like 1 kilo bags. We didn't have plastic those days. They were fabric. They were fabric bags that we were filling with beans and peas, um, and we would sew the top of them and put a stamp on it, you know, those red seals, and they were sent to Red Cross to be sent to Germany for people who were hungry. It was after the war. And my brother and I, we were very active in filling the bags, and we really enjoyed participating in that. So the Baha'i women were active in many different organizations, in many different activities. And my mother, who came from quite a well-known family in Iran, she had never gone to school because girls were not allowed to leave houses, I mean, especially good girls. So they had a woman come and teach them how to read and write, basically. When she married my father was very adamant that he wanted her to develop and grow and learn and study English. And since within the Baha'i community, we had those facilities, she participated in a lot of them. Many of them were held at our house. Women would come to our house and they would study English. We had a neighbor who was American. She would come and teach them. So it always had this view of internationalism and the view of learning more and being educated. Because of the persecution of Baha'is in Iran, and because the Baha'i faith had this plan that Baha'is should spread around the world and also go places that they can get educated and serve humanity, my father, from way back that I could remember, he was always interested in leaving Iran and settling someplace else. Both to promulgate the Baha'i faith and also for us to get educated. He was very much interested in having his daughters being educated. I have to tell you, when I went to that French school, by the time we got to 9th grade, half of our class was married. So it was, getting a diploma was something that not many girls were able to reach that level. But when I finished 9th grade, my parents finally were able to make the trip to United States. My father had come here in 1955 with an agriculture group, and he really liked the United States. But he felt, we didn't have really the means and the money to do this. So he was able to get a scholarship and also an acceptance from Utah State University in Logan, Utah, for us to come and move to this city, small city in Utah, almost 98% Mormon. Basically an agriculture community. Even the professors of university had cows, and that they would attend to their farms in the morning before coming to university. And it was kind of fun growing up there, you know, to see all of this. we moved to United States and we rented our house, which was in a very good area of Tehran, across from British Embassy, to a British family, not knowing whether we're going to go back or not. When my father came to Utah State University, he began taking courses in agriculture economics, which was very vital in those days for development of Iran. And he was able to get his master's in agriculture economics from Utah State University. We came in 1959, and within 2 years, he had his master's degree. I have to go back a little bit to our trip from Tehran to New York and how we actually left Iran and how we came to New York. We had a big house in Iran. And my mother, coming from a good family, had a huge dowry of silver and crystal and this and carpets and everything. So one day my father came and said, we're going to the United States, we'll buy everything there, we have to sell everything. So somebody came from one of the shops and basically packed everything and left. And he bought 5 suitcases, and he said, I think 3 of them had his Baha'i books in it. And there was only 2 left for the rest of us to put our clothes and the rest of the stuff in it. And we left to go to Israel. In 1959, we flew from Tehran to Tel Aviv. And in those days, Israel was post-war. They didn't have much food. So whoever went, Baha'is that went from Iran to Israel, often were accompanied with a lot of food for the Baha'i Center in Israel. We took a lamb, they slaughtered a lamb, and we didn't have plastic those days. They wrapped it in a gunny sack with like a block of ice in it. We had a gunny sack of beans and lentils and peas and rice and sugar and tea and some sweets. This all came with us on the plane. When we reached Tel Aviv, a pickup truck came and they loaded all of this in the back of the pickup truck. And I think the road from Tel Aviv to Haifa, which is very short now, it took like 2.5 hours. Part of it was not paved. It was very beginning of Israel. And when we got to the port of Haifa and saw some lights, it was May 1st, 1959, and it was May Day, and we didn't even know what May Day was. They had put some lights out for celebration. It was so beautiful that we saw some lights there, and we stayed in Haifa for 19 days. My father was looking at some of the agriculture project, at some of the kibbutz, especially the irrigation system that some of the kibbutz had developed for arid land and for dry land. And my father was very interested in that, in being able to send this information to Iran for them to use, which was really phenomenal. All of the drip kind of irrigation and all of that was developed at that time in Israel. Our trip to Haifa was for 19 days. We really, to a new country. We went to all of the Baha'i holy places. We met a lot of friends. It was just wonderful. From there, we flew to Rome. We again met with some of the Baha'is in Rome and went to some of the places to visit, some of the cathedrals and historical places. From Rome, we flew to Geneva, In Geneva, my father bought a watch for every one of us, which was a big, big, it's a wonderful treat and present. Oh, in Rome, they also bought us some shoes because we only had like maybe one pair of shoes leaving Iran. Then in Switzerland, we visited friends, and he was checking to see how it is, the education system, the Baha'i system, all of this. Then we flew to London and stayed in London for a few days because our ship would sail from Southampton in England port for United States. It was interesting. In London, we met the Shah of Iran, and my uncle was there. We met him. It was just wonderful. Our trip, but you know what? It took so long to go after we left Tehran to get to United States that I always thought it would take me a month to go back. It was quite a joyous and eventful month that we spent together prior to going on the ship SS United States in Southampton and heading towards United States. It's interesting. I still have one of the suitcases that has the label of SS United States on it, and it's a very interesting kind of token of when we came and how we came to this country. It took 4 days to get, which was at that time SS United States was the fastest ship that came to the United States.
Wow.
On the side, one of my son's closest friend that they have been friends since they were 5 years old, Michael, his mother is Rini. She was a Holocaust survivor, and they left England to come to United States 10 years earlier than we did. And they came on SS United States. And she said, we were on the bottom of the ship, on the lower level, with a lot of other Jewish families that were fleeing to come to New York. And then 10 years later, it happens that we were on not the upper class, but in the middle class of the ship coming to United States.
Huh.
The day that we sighted Statue of Liberty early in the morning was very exciting for the entire ship. My brother and I, Masood and I, were just running around up in the upper decks of the ship, trying to see different angles of it. And as we approached, it was very exciting. So we landed in New York City, and my father had already told some of the Baha'is of New York that we were coming. So they were expecting us. We have a very beautiful picture of all 5 of us walking out of the ship. It was, of course, landing in New York. It's impressive, confusing, noisy, different. We hadn't seen like African Americans basically in Iran very much. We hadn't seen many taxis, yellow cab. All of the excitement of New York was quite an interesting place for us to see. The Baha'is welcomed us. We went and had a meal with them. I remember a few things my father told me at that time. May I have a little sip of tea?
Sure.
First of all, he measured all of us to see what height we were. He weighted us. And then he said, kids, he said, I brought you to this country. It's a wonderful country. You can do a lot of things in this country. You can become whatever you want to become. but there are certain things you can only do once. He said, you see this skyscraper, you can only jump once off of the skyscraper. But there are everything else, you can do it and you can enjoy it. He also said, I want you to live in such a way in this country that if anytime any judge, anybody asks you if you have done this act or behavior or whatever, you can say yes if you have done it, and say it with pride. So I want your behaviors and your actions and the road you take to be a road that you take pride in, and that you never have to be embarrassed or ashamed of it. So this is what I remember of the.
Oh, can I just ask you one question?
Sure.
What you have just shared is I think it's the most remarkable life imaginable. I mean, you're doing French, you're doing English, you're doing Catholicism, you're doing Baha'iness. I mean, it's one thing after another that you nurtured you in this world as you were growing up. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
It's extraordinary. So how did
About
you
a 5-minute warning.
She's saying we have to get off.
only for a few minutes? We
Okay.
have to keep our heads filled.
All right.
Okay.
What do? I go off?
Do we leave?
Do we turn off?
I think we should turn off. We're going to turn right back in again.
Okay.
I just left the meeting. Did you?